How do we balance the earth? First, we balance ourselves. We balance our bodies. We get used to hot and cold. We like the cold when we like the cold. We like the warmth when we like the warmth. Okay? Take that into an earthly, planetary, cosmic scale. If you want peace in your life, you only get cold when you want to get cold. You only get warm when you want to get warm. You only get really hot when you prefer to. You can sweat out your energy and sweat out your calories and lose weight. You can move and lose weight. You can do your moving in the cold. You can do your moving in the warm, but you do it in a place where you're comfortable and you do it enough where you lose weight. Okay? Now let's pass that with a person. If you need any examples on people, we'll go into that. This is a more important message. The way we balance the earth. Let's move up to that. We already have temperature systems and weather systems that we figured out as good-hearted people wanting to learn about weather. There still are people doing that. So I'm not putting any weather person down. I'm not putting any person down. I am all of them. So there's people in that mix who found ways to manipulate that. To that extent of things that we can do, we've learned how to manipulate that because we are our thinking and we are all one. This doesn't mean that different ones don't do wrong things so that eventually we can balance them back out. This is the balance we're working on from a cosmic mental scale to a cosmic physical scale. Now we've got to learn how to balance our bodies, and when we feel how balanced our bodies are, we see, hey, nature did this before, didn't it? How did nature lose balance? Well, there was hot and cold before light and dark. Just between the mental thinking of light and dark and hot and cold. Sometimes it's too cold, sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too dark, sometimes it's too light. You move away, you move forward, you move forward, you move away, you move away, you move forward. You weave and intertwine your nature, your color, your heat signature, your patterns, your everything, your thoughts, your memories, everything. You leave those in a spot. They grow out. They become more accustomed to the heats, the colds, the heats, the temperatures, the patterns, the people, the everything, the society, the whatever, the group, the bigger arrangement of heats and colors. And this guy's got a lamp that can go hot and cold. Now, all heat and pattern and coloring can be placed into one little object and you can carry it around. Well, these are little tiny molecules doing this, and we're big people with houses and couches and cars and stuff like that. We move around with all these little tiny heat and molecules and expanding and separating and agreeing and not agreeing and disagreeing and moving and fluctuating and ants and bugs, and then we go into fiber optics and cellular memories and heats and signatures and movements and patterns and movements and coordinated patterns and mental patterns and spiritual movements and patterns and recognitions of ways we don't have to pay attention to anymore because it's been thinking for itself. So it's gone in that way with metal. So in the earth world, those things grew, molded, moved, fungied, moved more, molded, left their signatures behind, mycelium, moved around, rooted, got some mental thinking to move with earth and seed and plant and mineral, rock, water, root moving down, growing, getting bigger, things under the water and under the ground and under the earth and above the earth getting bigger all at the same time, expanding, moving out, heat signatures, liking it, chilling, getting cold, expanding, moving, plants, growing, memory, community, heat, cold, expanding, moving, not liking itself, liking itself, little pieces of each one staying behind, leaving little heat lights, but minerals, mini reels, little spiritual souls inside of rocks and candy and kind of like in their way. I like candy. It's hot. Like I remember being rocks and bugs and all the things down in underground using other things to heat yourself with, using things that hold heat in ways that we don't understand, or it's in their minds and they believe it to be so it keeps them warm, just like people in the outbacks and people in the woods and people in the igloos and people that live in huts and cabanas in super heat, people that live in a mixture of both climates. Now what we need to do is somewhat like what we're doing, but on a cosmic scale. When we see big things happening, how do we balance the earth? This will balance the universe, but you start with yourself. You get to your community. You agree upon what you think heat and cold would be, and how you finally determine the last factor is the mental scales that we've gone to, the gadgets and gadgets that are good at times, but horrible when we use them against ourselves. Now, how did bugs and stuff do it down in the thing so they could build communities? Well, they found a way where they could agree upon it, spread and grow, and keep it contained in ways that wasn't harming anybody and harsh for any specific one of its kind. And then they moved out and they liked other kinds, and some of the kinds were accepted, some of the kinds weren't. We're on a big scale of that right now too. This starts with you. So back to all the bugs doing their things down into the ground, all the things doing their things out into the sea, all the things doing their things above the ground, and all them things doing their thing, not just above the ground, but on top of the trees that are extensions above the ground, just like below are the roots below the ground. Things live off the roots, things live off the soil that those roots relay their energy of the sun into the ground with. That spreads through minerals. Minerals remember things. They heat, they expand, they grow, they chip off, they go do their things, just like people do, but they stay. Like we have mountains up here, there's rocks down there. They hold memory from each other, to each other, through the earth. We have earth memory. We have minerals we use. We break a little piece off and use it as a chip. And then we put it into something. It can hold tons of airspace because it's just like sunlight. And that way it goes into fiber optic reading prisms and crystals and things like that. And we know all this. It's simple, really, when you are it. I say it so easily, not because I've studied any of it, because I went through the life course of the rocks. I went through the life course of the minerals. I went through the life course of the bugs. And if you're not seeing that, you did too, because I'm telling it to you. It's just you didn't get to do it through your personal body yet. Now you're doing it through your mental body. Don't concentrate too much on any one of them, or you will scare yourself and feel some horrible things in your body, because you're relaying those messages back to yourself. So you decide how deep you want to go into what I am, because I am you and you are I. So there's no separation when you hear this on a recording or when you feel it in your body. It's just astounding that you really never realized it that way before. And it is that way, whether you did realize it that way or not. Now it is coming to your realization, which is called revelation. And here you are, in relation to the I, that is the you sensation. Now that's not just me rhyming, that's you feeling, or at least comprehending. And if you comprehend it now, then relax your body. Listen to it again. Let your face get comfortable. Let your arms and legs be comfortable. Let your neck and back, your chest and stomach, all your little intricate details get comfortable. All the way down to the tippy tips of your toes and the tippy tips of your fingers and the ends of your hair follicles. And then feel the area around you get comfortable. Feel the mattress you're sitting on, the floor you're on, the animals that may be outside, the insects that may be in your corner, the cobwebs, they're living too. And they'll feel your energy. And you'll say, hey, if there's a little bug up there, like, hey, if you want to come down and meet me, I'll put this little plate out or a little piece of paper and I'll tap on it and I'll look at you and I'll talk to you and say, hey, come here and stand on this when you want to talk to me or want to meet me. And I won't hurt you. If I see you here, I'll pick you up, and if you want to crawl off it onto my hand and I know you won't bite me, then that's cool, because I'll be able to communicate with you then. And it works, my friends. The world around you is just waiting for you to find a way to speak to it and talk to it and love it, because it loves you too. When it feels afraid of you, it feels defensive. When you go up to a spider and you walk through its web, you can walk through a poisonous spider's web and it won't bite you and kill you because it knows that you did it by accident. If it feels threatened or it feels hungry, they have attitudes too, so they can do wrong, yes. But when you show something love, it lets go of all those past things, and animals can feel much quicker than people can. People hold on to what ifs. Animals do, and to some extent. Bugs do to some extent more, certain ones, and it goes on different levels for each thing. They really do. You can learn how to love cockroaches, and you can learn how to love plants and animals and insects, and that balance will happen too. They will move from what place is comfortable weather-wise. They will move to places that aren't. Now let's get back to the balance. The balance is then, when we know that there's something, we use those weather systems to make sure that we know something's happening and be honest and don't create any more problems. Don't create our own. keep our own heat usages and stuff like that to a, not minimum, but to a balance, just a balance. Learn how to do it without generating outward heat and generating inward heat without using too much overuse of any minerals either. So what you do then is when you see how the astral system of weather, like the clouds and the pressures and those kind of things are working, those heats, and we know something's coming to a certain area, we love each other enough to say, hey, guys in Louisiana, or hey, guys in this area that's going to get hit with a hurricane, nature's going through its course, and we did this in a micro scale that's now exercising its echo back in a macro scale, and it's coming back to us. So no one's against us. And as long as we know that we're not creating our own problems, this is nature just doing its echo. And the only way to balance it out is to people who want to stay there and keep it that way, deal with the consequences they get. People who are smart enough to realize that that's nature doing something in a macular scale that is happening to some degree, whether nature did originally or people caused it. And on every scale, we're all together nature doing it. So if people throughout nature start adding more to the weather problem, we get more weather problems. And that's really what's happening. And there's people out there really, really tampering with weather, and it's happening. So we stop doing all that, and we start letting nature do what it does, and we let the natural echoes come back to us. And as one huge, giant family in our own individual areas, on the spots that we are on our continents, when we know that there's a nature habitat, happening, we move away from those spots to balance out the heat and cold that's being dispersed upon the atmospheric pressure point that it's being hit by that weather thing. We let it hit there. We let nature do its course. We are able to rebuild things. We don't take too much from nature. We rebuild with the littlest we need to, so we use less heat. And over courses of time, that spot will be like you see a weight on one side and a weight on another side, and we are balancing the pressure of heat and stuff at the same time on a macular scale. Now we're doing this on a lower scale from ourselves, to our families, to our communities, to our areas. When things are on a macular scale where the weather pressures are getting hot, you let that thing happen. You move everybody. Everyone loves each other. You move away to a spot that's good, and you let it happen. So you can still live in the woods, you can still live in the snow, you can still live in those areas and love them. But when a nature happening happens, you love each other enough to say, hey, move in here while that happens. And when it's over, we go back and repair it if we need to. And if we see it keeps happening, then we just move farther away from where it's happening and let it happen in those areas when it does. And you'll see that it gets more it'll just match that area. And then people who really like the cold and stuff like that can still go ski and still whatever when it's there naturally. Don't create it yourself. Now you're tampering with heat and cold, and that's the point. Let nature do its thing and do it in nature, okay? That's how we balance out ski resorts and all that kind of stuff. Don't turn into a big franchise market thing. People want to go, they go. We already have the clothes and the materials to do it. You use them. But you don't do it on a big marketing scale. And you try to find a way where you do it without using a big heating scale. So you can do those ski lifts and those whatever without having too much smoke coming out of chimneys or without too much like that. So we use mineral memory in that way to run things that we cooperate with. See, we're balancing everything out simply. So it's just people have to take it upon themselves to get their mind right, to get their heart right, to be patient enough to listen to sensible ways of working on big scale problems. Now, the biggest scale problems are the ones that we run into when people say, but I love the snow, and that's fine. So then live in an area that's on the outskirts that you can go deeper into the snow in. Let's say when a hurricane hits an area, they move up with anyone in the state up. They don't worry about where they're going to be stuck out of their house. They're going to be homeless. They're going to be whatever. And I'm not trying to sound mean and whatever. But if everyone loved each other, you'd say, hey, stay here. I know you're not going to hurt me or harm me or kill me. We don't steal from each other anymore because there's no money. So if you want something, you ask for it. If you take something, I didn't really need it that much. I don't live off of, all the simple things we have and all the great things we have. It's like if it disappears, then, oh no, your life isn't over. Think of it like that with every situation. If somebody steals from you and there's a world where there's no money and you say, what's mine is yours, there's no stealing anymore. And you get to the point where everyone's so kind to me, why would I do that? You would ask first. And if they say no, you'd say okay. And they'd explain why if they really needed to. Like, this is a balance of good and bad, of wrong and right, of dark, evil, and super saintful. You know, it's just, we just need to find it within our hearts to allow the past go and balance things. We can talk about the history. We can talk about the stories. We can make it all a mystery. We can reminisce the glories. But what we would really benefit from doing the most is writing our own futures together instead of writing competing stories and trying to match our own storylines and make that seem like it should be the reality, when the reality is all of it. And we balance out our uses of heat, our uses of temper, our uses of anger, and our uses of money, judgment, separation. Fake value. Once those happen, there's just a magical cure that will happen. And we just balance it out. We let time do it. And then it gets to a cosmic scale. When the heats and pressures of our planet balance out, it's going to cause heats and pressures all over the cosmic scale to notice and move. And because we're going to be here on this physical earth, when you die, that'll be gone. This whole problem will be gone. But if you want to stay in a physical earth and keep going through lives and saving a physical place that can be a true paradise, which it already is, we can make it even better by balancing out and doing that. Staying in areas that balance out where the weight is proportioned on the planet. And it balances out. And you can do it in all those different areas and keep them all balanced out without having any nature harmful activities happening anymore. And once we do it, other planets and other systems will set and be able to regrow and be able to do things. And it will reset the hands of time and actually be able to grow those things. We will be able to grow and be more powerful and be giants and sustain the ability to live in higher temperatures and sustain the abilities to live in colder temperatures, because we'll be able to slowly work on that as the people who love the cold and slowly work on that as the people who love the heat. And it really wouldn't be and won't be and isn't hard. That's how we got into giant beings. That's how we got into beings of sunlight and beings of all that stuff. And we are a mix between the two. There's only two, because those two are actually one, which is just heat and cold, light and dark meeting each other. And if I could tell you how that popped out, there would be no need for words and there would be no need for fascination. And when you die, you go right back to that. So get as close as you can to that before you die. So when you leave this body, you realize you're not dying. You're just dividing back into energy. That's all dying means. And the energy is magic. And the more magic we keep it, the more life continues to grow in every scale, seeable and non-seeable. That's why I'm so happy if I die or not today as a human being, because this feeling inside me is all I am. And a body can feel it the best. So any body I go into now, an ant would be the happiest ant. If it gets smushed, it's like cool. And that's why all the insects and things like that live in their body shapes, because they're like, hey, I want to take on the responsibility of this life and see what I can actually do as that. And you do a lot. You repair plants. You repair nature. You repair everything. You may think it seems like a bad life, but it's awesome. I know it. I've been every animal. And why would they? So when people hear that in their thinkingly conscious space, and they go like, nobody's ever been every animal nor creature, and that's so silly. And then you really start thinking about it, and you've been it. Like I am, and I have been, so I can't take it away. So when I say it, you might be like, if I died this life, why would I want to be an ant? Because in that cosmic space of actual clarity, you'd go like, what kind of benefit could I do as an ant? If I met a whole bunch of other ants and got them to work together and did something, what could that do? Even if people saw, you know how much you do learn from looking at ants? You learn that they build a community and work together somehow in this cosmic, great, big world of problems. So therefore, the only way you could learn how to do that is to be an ant next time. And you do it. And you've done it every time. You're doing it right now as all of them. That's what I'm saying. Throughout time, that's what you've been doing. And that's how cool you are. And if you get that, you'll open your mind and never have a reason to not think about something in a positive way, because you're it too, and you've always done it. Just think about it a little bit, and love yourself for who you are, and love the world for what it is, because it's you too, and that's who you are. I know. I'm there.